Hey guys, good morning. Thanks for joining in so early in the morning. Let's get started. Give me a moment. Let me share my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, can see.
All right. So let's get started. First ever virtual Global Azure Bootcamp. Super excited to do it virtually this time around. So my topic is going to be on Personalizer. This is a new product from Microsoft, and it's based out of this whole idea of reinforcement learning. Now, as you kind of think about this, right, reinforcement learning or the idea of this whole contextual bandit is not very new. A lot of companies have been using this in the past, and a lot of its foundation coming from a lot of biological influences. So if you think about, most of us are Asians, the way we were taught up to grow is that, hey, you study well, you'll get good marks, you'll get good salary, good bonuses. So, you're kind of reinforcing some of the good behaviors. If you don't do well, then, you're not going to get that promotion. You're not going to get that grade. You're not going to do some of these things, right? So the same concepts go in for the idea of reinforcement learning, and a lot of companies do that, right? So if you think about Netflix, I'm sure everybody has a Netflix subscription. If you don't, the way they end up doing it is the artwork that you see that comes up is dynamic. It keeps changing. You would have seen that it keeps changing over a period of time. The whole idea for them is to enable you to find something interesting, something that catches your eye, and for you to at least try that series or movie out before you decide to go do something else, right? So they keep playing around with this artwork, and this is a concept that they used for using reinforcement learning. On the other hand, a company like Microsoft, they use it very, very extensively, right? If you have been on Xbox, the recommendations that you get, the preferences that you get are some of the options that are powered by Personalizer. And this is something that they had done during their launch video as well. They said that, hey, close to about 40% of their hits increment or user engagement really came in because of Personalizer, right? Because it was able to understand the user needs fairly quickly, and it got them up and running. We at Property Guru, where I work, my current employer, do also extensively use reinforcement learning. We use it for a lot of activities internally, and something that's becoming a common use. So in this session, what we are going to learn is what is reinforcement learning. We will take a look at maybe a couple of examples of how it really works, kind of get to understand some of the basic concepts in reinforcement learning, and then we'll jump onto the demo. So everything that you essentially learned will kind of get used for our demo today. Our demo today is going to be on picking up your food choices depending on what your preferences are. So we'll kind of work through that. All right, so let's get running, right? So this whole idea of personalizer, there are two key words that you have to think about. One, it's called contextual bandits. So we'll understand, what is a bandit and what does contextual mean in the world of bandits, right? So think of the bandits as the dacoits or something. So it's a similar idea that comes in there. So let's spend some time to understand what it means. All right. So if you have done traditional programming, right, your brain essentially is the algorithm, right? You will give it an input. It will go through some logic that you have trained the algorithm for, and it will generate some output for you, right? If you think about the world of machine learning, the way it's going to work is you will have an input, right? The algorithm will look at the output and figure out, what parameter it needs to tune to generate the output, right? But in the world of reinforcement learning, this is completely different. So you are going to make an observation, right? The agent is going to kind of look at that observation and determine an action, right? That action is going to act in the real world, right? It could be as simple as whether you like the choice or not, whether you are clicking or not, and whether or not what happens in that real world, you will get a reward. And this is not a guarantee, right? You may or may not get a reward, and that's something that we have to think through. So if you do get a reward, the agent is going to kind of reinforce the part that the decision that it took or the action that it took based on the observation was the right one, and it adjusts its parameters and goes out from there, right? Now, this loop keeps on repeating itself, and that's something that, it becomes a continuous process in itself, right? So the world might change. That's why the observation might also change, and that may change the behavior of the agent itself. Now, agent in your world, you can think about as a model, a machine learning model or an algorithm. The idea remains the same, right? But because the agent is making a decision for you, that's why it's there. Now, in a lot of these scenarios, right, when you are observing the world, not all the states are fully observable, which means that you cannot observe everything besides maybe a small portion of it.